Welcome to the Ghost Show online, my fiends, booze, and ghouls. Your hosts, Seika Groves, Rachel Benter, and Ian Russell will discuss all things paranormal. Prepare to be afraid.
So what are you gracing us with today in terms of...
All right, well, my first location is called Turtle Mountain.
Uh-huh.
And this mountain is part of the Canadian Rockies.
Okay.
That runs through the southwest portion of the province of Alberta. And I have personally been there, and I'll tell you, there's quite the story to this mountain.
Okay. I've never been, so interesting.
So there was coal mining taking place on the mountain. They had discovered coal, and they were actually mining into the mountain itself.
Oh, okay.
To mine for the coal. And also, just to clarify pretty much exactly where this particular location is, it's in an area called Crow's Nest Pass.
Okay.
So the southwest portion of Alberta, Crow's Nest Pass, Turtle Mountain. When they started mining, they set up a mining town, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And the town was called Frank, as in
okay.
in a man's name, the town of Frank. And boy, oh boy, what happened is, because they were mining into the mountain itself, what they did is the mining operations weakened the structure of the mountain.
Oh.
And on the early morning of April 29th, 1903, about 4 o'clock in the morning, the entire eastern side of the mountain broke loose.
Wow.
And avalanched in this landslide that just roared down about 100 kilometers an hour, wiping out the mining town.
Wow.
And apparently it was like 120 million tons of rock that came rushing down. Now, this mountain is 7,000 feet tall.
Okay. So it's a good sized mountain.
It's a good, as I say, it's part of the Rocky Mountains. It's a good sized mountain. And as I say, I personally have been there. I was out visiting some family I had that way. About 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And looking for something to do the one day, they said, well, why don't we go and see Frank Slide, as it's known as today.
Oh, wow.
And so we went there, and I was just, wow.
So they just left everything.
It's exactly as it was.
Wow.
In 1903. It just wiped everything out. Of course, now there's an interpretive center detailing the history, and a very interesting museum. I spent a couple hours just going through, looking at the artifacts they had, researching the information they had. They had a diagram of actually what the mining operation looked like inside the mountain.
Oh, wow.
There was a map of the mine. But I'll tell you, when you go there and you see the sheer scale of the destruction, and every one of these gigantic boulders is literally the size of a house.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's incredible. And having avalanched down, it wiped out all the trees and everything else. And what really struck me, aside from the scale of everything, there was this eerie quiet because there's no trees, so there's no birds chirping, and you just walk through this landscape of gigantic avalanche mountain.
I'm looking at some pictures right now, and I'm a little confused. There's a rail line that runs right through the middle of the debris field.
Yeah, that was there before. At the time of the avalanche, that was rebuilt.
Okay.
They rebuilt the rail line. But yeah, so wow, and the town and those that were killed, they're still buried underneath those rocks.
Yeah, well, some of those rocks are just massive. They're as big as the train.
Yeah, well, I say some of them are the size of a house.
Wow.
And so you go there and you can just feel, you know, if there's a haunted location, you know, this is it. You can just feel the aspects of it. It's unbelievable.
Wow. I'm looking at pictures of it in 1903. So it's it's a small town, but still there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's probably 20, 25 buildings on either side of the street. And and there was apparently a Northwest Mounted Police camp there too. Wow. That's pretty terrifying. So, are you still there, Ian? What happened to you? Oh, there you are.
Yep. Well, did I?
I'm just looking at pictures, so please keep talking. I'm just checking out.
Well, that's so that's what happened, and what they're saying, because a friend of my cousin, my cousin was the one I went out to visit. A friend of hers lives in that Crow's Nest Pass area.
Oh, wow. Just
down from the mountain. And it was interesting to hear that everybody who lives in that area now, there is a little town that's been built up, you know, in modern times, that's there now. And none of them can get insurance on their homes.
Wow.
Because the mountain is so weakened. There is the threat that there could be another avalanche sometime in the future, and nobody can get any home insurance.
Wow.
Who is within range of this mountain for fear of another landslide.
It's pretty crazy, actually. I'm just looking at the pictures, and it's just like, whoa. It's like the entire side of the mountain is gone.
Oh, it is? Yeah.
From the top to the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, I say the entire side of the mountain, 7,000 feet high, broke loose. And if you go onto Google Maps and kind of look at the above satellite image, you can really see the entire scale
of how big it is. It's
hard to how big it actually is. Yeah,
it's hard to tell from the pictures. I mean, there's people standing beside some of these boulders, and they're just, like you said, the size of a house. But with the train going through the middle of it, you can really get a perspective as to how huge some of these boulders are, because they're literally larger than the engine of the train. They're that.
Oh yeah.
So they're huge.
Yeah, it was something to see. If you ever get the chance to go out there, I recommend taking a visit. It's, you know, whether you're interested in the paranormal or not.
Yeah, the site itself just.
You know, everybody, if even if you're just interested in history, you get the chance to go out to see Frank Slide at Turtle Mountain. You know, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, it looks like a crazy sight. So, do you know how many people were living in the town at the time?
Approximately 100 people lived in the path of the destruction.
Wow.
Located between the rail tracks and the river that's there.
Okay.
And it says the death toll is uncertain, but estimates range between 70 and 90.
Okay, so, and I wonder, obviously there might have been people down in the mine as well.
Initial news reports state that between 50 and 60 miners were within the mountain.
Wow.
And had been buried with no hope of survival.
Yeah, well, you would never get them out from there. And I guess when you went, was part of it still existing or no?
No.
No.
Any buildings that that would have survived, are long gone.
Okay.
You go in there, yes, the newly rebuilt, well, maybe not new now, but the train tracks go through. You got the little river. There's the new modern interpretive center,
Right.
and then there's the current town, whatever it's called now. That's kind of farther back.
I think it's still Crow's Nest Pass is what they're saying. It still seems to be I don't know about this Frank. I mean, obviously the town of Frank no longer exists, but.
Yeah, because that was the mining town itself, was Frank.
So there was, okay, I see. Oh, it's showing, actually, I'm watching this little video that showed how far the slide took out the town, pretty much.
Yeah. So as I say, go on to Google Maps and take a look at the satellite image from above. And you can see exactly how far that actually came rushing down and whoosh, almost went up against the base of the next mountain.
Oh, wow. It's terrifying. Like, to see the amount along the river that it took out. Like, it's huge. So, and Rachel's with us apparently. So.
Oh, good.
Her in, but yeah. So keep telling us because this is really fascinating, and I'm glad you're covering this one. So let's talk more.
Yeah, that's without reading off of an entire article on Wikipedia or whatever. That's what I've got to say about that. As I say, I've been there. It was pretty amazing to look at, and as I say, there's still the chance of a future avalanche taking place.
Yeah, it's pretty terrifying looking. So what's the stories then? So we had about 70 to 90 people. Most of them sound like they were trapped inside the mine. And so what, I guess you're not, not like myself, but when you were there, were you getting any kind of weird, I haven't been, but it would be one of those places where I'm sure I would pick up on things and
oh, I'm sure you would. No, for me, as I say, it was just the strange silence.
Oh, okay.
No birds, nothing. You go in there and you can just hear the wind.
Oh, yeah, okay. I know that one. Yeah, where it just seems like it's unnaturally quiet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm letting Rachel into the room. So here she is. Hey, she's going to join us. But so when you went to the museum, did they talk about potentially haunted location, or did they stay away from that and just talk about?
No, it was just a historical display of, here's what happened, here's why it happened. No, there was nothing paranormal in their displays at all.
But in your research, hello.
I didn't mean to interrupt you both. I apologize for that. How are you?
Good.
Good.
So we're talking about, Ian's telling us about this really fascinating mine called Frank's Slide. Well, at the time it was called Frank's Town in Alberta. But
oh, right. Okay.
So he's giving us a lowdown because he's been there.
Oh, you've been there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So what is it that struck you as unusual about the mine, or was it simply that there was a lot of accidents?
Unusual. There's an interesting word. But Rachel, what happened is the focus of this location is one of the Canadian Rocky Mountains.
Oh.
Okay, and it's called Turtle Mountain.
Okay.
And there was a coal mining operation that was taking place. They mined right, instead of like your typical, let's go underground and dig down. They mined right into the mountain for the coal.
Oh, okay.
And what happened was the mining operations weakened the structure of the mountain, and the entire east face of the 7,000-foot mountain
came down,
broke loose, and avalanched down in this landslide, wiping out the mining town that was that was at its base.
including the mine.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It's pretty
That's so
spectacular if
sad.
you go online after and look at the pictures, because that's what I was doing while Ian was talking. I was looking at and it's shocking. The rocks, the boulders are so big. They're bigger than houses. They're bigger than a train that's passing through the middle. Like they're huge, right? So there was just no chance for survival with that.
How sad is that? Oh my God.
Rachel's dog is visiting us.
It went very noisy in my house, so I pressed the mute button for a minute. I apologize. It's a house of dogs here.
Dogs and dogs. They will be. But so Ian was saying that during his visit there, they have a museum now, or a sort of an information. I guess it is a museum of sorts, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And they have, so you can go.
It's an interpretive center.
Interpretive center.
Oh,
yeah.
I see.
There you go.
Yeah.
So what hauntings are sort of associated with this, Ian? Was there anything that you came across while you were, I mean, I know when you were there, you said you didn't actually come across any hauntings, but is there any talk of hauntings at this location that you know of?
No. So for myself, I assume it's just the energy that still resides from the event itself. That you had this town wiped out. You had all these people killed, who are still there, buried underneath all these gigantic boulders.
Yeah,
the miners that were killed in the mine when it avalanched. Well, there's got to be some kind of paranormal.
I'm sure, if we went to Frank's slide and did some kind of paranormal investigation there, I'm sure there's some stories that would want to come forward and be told, right? I suspect that there's stories at these locations that,
oh, absolutely,
that some people may have picked up on, some people maybe not. I don't know. I'm not speaking for everyone. I just speak for myself. But normal investigators, like I said, I've never had the opportunity to investigate a mine.
No, nor have I.
It does intrigue me. I will say.
I do. I would like to.
I am intrigued. So, Rachel, when we go on our tour of the south of England, we'll have to wrap around and go visit a couple of these locations.
Yes, we will.
And, check out some of these old tin mines and that. But I'm sure, too, like you were going to say, Ian, you should mention cobalt then, because that's in Ontario. And
oh, yes.
That's got some stories tied to it. That one I do know. I have heard the stories for cobalt. So,
yeah. Well, Cobalt is it's a tiny little town way up in northern Ontario.
Yes, it is.
Probably about 500 kilometers from where I am here in Hamilton. In the early 1900s, I think it was somewhere around 1908, 1910, somewhere around there. Silver was discovered.
Yes.
In the Cobalt region. And again, this mining town just grew overnight because cobalt became the Yukon gold rush of Canada. And everybody was going up there to try to seek their fame and fortune in mining silver.
Yes.
And all through the world, everybody had suddenly heard about cobalt. You couldn't pick up a newspaper
without talking about cobalt.
Knowing about cobalt. And because of this, everybody rushed up there, started digging mine shafts and mine tunnels.
Wow.
And it's so much so that back in the 1980s, the mid 80s, the main road that comes into Cobalt off of Highway 11 that goes up there. That main road into town actually caved in because the mine shaft that was underneath the road collapsed, and so they advertised it as like the world's biggest pothole.
Okay, actually, my uncle lives super close to Cobalt.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, he's in Temiskaming Shores, so yeah.
And so Trudy and I went up there about 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
I'd heard about cobalt and I wanted to go up and investigate. And unfortunately, it was about this time, a little earlier. It was March, April. Quite reasonable here in Hamilton. Much like we have outside the window today, it was, I don't know, 10 degrees, raining.
Okay. Not the best
North,
weather.
You go 500 kilometers up north, there was
Right.
still 3 feet of snow on the ground. And we couldn't do a thing. We got up there and it was like, there's no way. It was like minus 40 and
Wow.
snow. And it was brutal up there.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
And my uncle loves it
And
up there.
I've had people, I've told this
Sounds
before.
cold.
Maybe, say,
There
you
was
went
snow up there last
in the
weekend.
winter? And I went, well, yeah, because it was the only time I had available to do it, and I had to make a decision. Do I go or do I not go? So we went. So in terms of our paranormal investigation, nothing resulted from
Oh.
a serious investigation, but just like with Turtle Mountain and Frank Slide,
Mm-hmm.
you go up there and you can just feel the energy
Wow.
coming from this location. And when you go into the town, there's this mining building that's
Right.
right on
Okay.
the outside of
I
town.
know the type you mean with like the big tower and the.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what they're called though.
And that's what I'm trying to remember. I can't remember what those buildings are called at the
No,
moment.
me neither.
But in behind this building, again, it's like there are so many crisscrossing mine shafts and mine tunnels that all these miners just, went through the cobalt area.
Right.
This entire area in behind, big circular area, completely collapsed down into the ground. It's this
Wow.
huge crater there now. And it's sort of become a tourist attraction. There's a viewing platform, and you can look down, and this thing probably goes down, I don't know, 100 feet, 150 feet,
Wow.
just collapsed into the ground. And where it's all sheared off, you can see the mine tunnels, extending into the ground, moving on. And
Very cool.
it's something to see. But as I say,
Yeah, I
you
know
go there,
too that.
and you can feel the energy of, it had all these people there. I'm sure some of the ghost stories, they center around not the mines themselves, but the buildings in the town.
Yes. Yeah.
But there had to have been attacks and murders. It's like, well, I'm taking your claim.
Yeah.
This is now my mine shaft. It's interesting history.
Well, and too, there's interesting too, because like I said, my uncle, he just moved up there. He bought a house a year ago now up in Temiskaming Shores. And so he used to talk about it because he used to go up there. What's it called?
The building, they're called head frames.
Head frames. Okay.
Head frame buildings. That's what they're called.
Frames. There
Yeah.
you go. That makes sense.
You
Yeah.
got that.
Yeah. So interesting, because I remember him telling me about up there, and I'm not sure if it's cobalt exactly, but he was talking about there's a mine up there, and my cousin was saying it's called the right of way mine, I think is what it was, and it was actually
That's in
people were
cobalt.
trapped in it. Is it in cobalt?
That's in cobalt,
Okay, yeah, because
yeah.
there were people that were trapped in the shafts, and and the building still stands. That. What do they call it? Head frame? The head frame building over top of the mine. Yeah, but apparently tunnels collapsed and people died down in there. And apparently the Fraser Hotel is also haunted in cobalt.
Yeah, well, my friend Andrew Hind.
What makes it haunted? Do you know?
It says there's a troubled man lingering in the hotel. So who knows? Until we go up to cobalt and find out.
There's something about hotels that seem to be haunted.
You can go up to cobalt, or you can buy. My friend and author Andrew Hind has written a book about.
Oh, did he?
Oh, I think I'll have to
the
read
Ghosts and
that.
Haunting of Cobalt.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there we go.
And I'll give it a little plug. It's called Silver and Ghosts.
Silver and Ghosts. Okay.
And
That's interesting.
it talks about all of the hauntings that are in that Cobalt area, in the
You
hotels,
must
the
talk
buildings,
about the
the
hotel
mines.
then. Yeah, he must. They probably talks about that hotel. My uncle was telling me about it. My uncle is also able to sense the things beyond. So we often talk about all of those types of things quite frequently. My mother will have a barbecue, and my uncle and I will sit and talk about paranormal stuff all the time because he also feels it. But yeah, he's up that way now too, right? So I'll have to get my mom to ask him about Cobalt and see what he reports back, and then we can talk about it on another show.
Thank you for watching The Ghost Show Online. Join your hosts again next week as they discuss more tales of the supernatural, the paranormal, and all things spectacular. See you soon.